What's going on, YouTube? Ryan Alex back from Dopamon again. Finally back from our Olympic break. We are here today to talk about the NHL 2022 trade deadline, specifically the Toronto Maple Leafs and what their plan should be, who they should target, and just some possible trade scenarios. Alex and I kind of, come up with two different scenarios, but all of these trades could happen, at any point here, and we're gonna go through a bunch of them now and we'll see how it goes. We decided, I decided anyway, that the Leafs had three main areas of weakness, and I think everyone knows at this point. All Leafs fans know that number one is defense. Kyle Dubas came out today in his presser for the pre-Heritage Classic thing in Hamilton, the outdoor game, and he said number one is going to be defense. That's what they're going for. They're not really focused on forward or whatever else. But I still think, personally, there is a hole in that probably second line left wing spot where Kerfoot kind of sits with JT and Willie. And then the other big question mark, hopefully will be answered internally with the guys we already have, is goaltending. So we've kind of got a trade for each kind of scenario. Not necessarily things we think will happen 100%, but just a general idea. So don't take any of this like, oh, it's you put a second in there, it should be a third. I'm not worried about that stuff. We're just going for a general idea here. We'll start with someone that you really like here, Alex. And all of this, by the way, is assuming that Jake Muzzin will be on LTIR. That's the other asterisk code.
Important. Yeah.
Start off with you here, Alex, for your first trade.
First trade, Jacob Chychrun. He's been, top of the trade bait board. I personally love him. I think he's way underrated in Arizona. I know that the asking price, I think, has been a little bit low. I know Arizona said was a first, second, third, or first mid-tier prospect and another prospect. That's first, second, third. I think it's a little bit of a low ball to maybe get a kind of bidding war. And so my trade here is for Nick Robertson, a first and a fourth.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what the kind of package is for Jacob Chychrun. I like Jacob Chychrun. I just don't think that he's what the Leafs need for playoffs. I like the idea of getting a guy that is controllable for has in multiple years of his contract and isn't just a rental. Jacob Chychrun, I think, is the best defenseman available that fits that that criteria. I just don't.
And of course, with Muzzin out, there is that hole.
Yeah, I just don't know. I just don't know what you would do going forward. A and B. I don't know where he fits in a playoff lineup. Does he kick Muzzin down to third left D, and he kind of focus mostly Muzzin is shut down only for 15 minutes a night kind of deal? Do you make Chychrun play his offside? I don't know, but yeah, this again, put Nick Robertson in here, put any prospect in here. This is kind of just a placeholder. First mid-round pick, Nick Robertson. Not terrible. I think Nick Robertson is probably the prospect with Toronto most likely to be traded. But it could be any one of our top picks anyway. Next guy here for you.
The next guy, from the Ottawa Senators, Nick Paul. I think Nick Paul is the perfect third line guy. He's reaching his prime right now. He has the speed, he has the size. He's been paired with elite talent like Connor McDavid in the World Juniors when he won gold. So I think that he could be that second line winger with Tavares and Nylander. Even I think he could fill into the third line or bottom six role. I know Keefe has the top six, bottom six kind of thing, and he can fit into either. I really like Nick Paul's game, and with contract extensions not quite working with Ottawa, as a rental, I think he could be it. And going the other way, Matthew Knies, I think a guy who probably should have gone a little bit higher in the 2021 draft. He's got the offensive kind of trigger man release, offensive skill that Ottawa really needs. They need a guy like Matthew Knies.
Now, I just want to
And the second.
I want to emphasize that these trades are kind of me and you is a good tandem to talk about this because I am the Leaf fan. I'm a little biased, and you're a Sens fan.
Mm-hmm.
So you're seeing this from an outside perspective. This trade, when you sent me this is the most, to me as a Leaf fan, the most horrendous thing I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
This is the most horrendous thing I've ever seen. And I like Nick Paul.
Yeah.
We talk about this a lot. I dunk on Nick Paul because I dunk on Ottawa. Because I'm a Leaf fan and you're a Sens fan, so I like to dunk on Ottawa, obviously. I like Nick Paul. I think it could be a good fit. I would give you a 4th round pick, maybe, for Nick Paul. I would hang up the phone if you mentioned any one of my prospects if I was Kyle Dubas. I don't know if this is the right kind of trade for this scenario. I like the fact that you've kind of given us a pick back to try to offset that.
And that's a late second. That's where Nyes was picked, right?
That's where he was picked. You're right, but
of course he should have gone higher.
Yeah, interesting in the sense that it depends on how you want to think of trades. Because me and you have talked about this in the past. Where do you trade up? Like, how valuable are prospects? Like, I think we as fans overvalue prospects. Where they're all the second coming of Alex Ovechkin on the wing. Like, they're not, Matthew Knies is gonna score 50 goals every year. Yeah, maybe, but probably not. So,
as it stands right now, Nick Paul is scoring more than Matthew Knies.
Yes. So there is a little bit of a fundamental, like a philosophy of how you go about trading prospects, but I think this is a little bit of a stretch for what you would expect to get for Nick Paul. I like for Ottawa specifically, we talked about this too. I like Matthew Knies in Ottawa. Just went out there. If this trade was Connor Brown retained for the duration of his contract, then you'd be like, okay, I'm listening now. But Nick Paul, I'm not sure it does that for me. It was Connor Brown.
All right, yeah. So if you hate these trades, you can direct that at me. And now, if you hate the next trades, you can direct them at Ryan.
Yes. Now here are your trades. Here will be the. What do I even have first?
Yeah, I forgot to.
I think I know what I have first. I think I addressed defense first.
You did.
The whole thing with Toronto is that every big player is always linked to Toronto because it's a media circus here. And I didn't bring him up on HockeyDB because I'm a dum-dum. He'll be linked to Toronto until he's not. And that's Ben Chiarot. Ben Chiarot is probably the biggest trade chip out of the trade deadline on defense that brings things that the Leafs would want come playoff time. And he's a rental, and he does play that hard style of game that really is only good for like the gritty part of the playoffs. But it's a guy you want. And I don't know if I would do this personally. I honestly think Ben Chiarot he's going. I think he's 100% going on trade deadline day. I just don't know if it's to Toronto. If it is, I think the package for Ben Chiarot will be almost identical to what David Savard was for Tampa Bay from Columbus last year. It'll be a first and a third, or a first and a mid-round prospect maybe. Half retained for Ben Chiarot is about $1.75 million against the cap, which is absolutely fine. Obviously, it's just for 1 year, so who cares? So it's not even the full cap hit. It's prorated. But yeah, first and third. I don't know if I would give up a first for Ben Chiarot. I really don't. But this is a guy that the Leafs need. I do think he addresses a huge hole in the Leafs lineup, especially with Jake Muzzin out in the regular season. But come playoffs, his value skyrockets. It really does. So that's my first trade to address D. And I've kind of addressed a thing each with each trade here. And did I do... Yeah, okay. So my next one is kind of a fun thing for me. And it's been talked about a lot. And I love it. I'm in love with the idea. bring me back Luke Schenn. Bring back Luke Schenn, please, Kyle. That would be awesome. I don't think it would take much. It's not, you're not getting a first round pick for Luke Schenn, Vancouver. I've heard people suggest that. That's not happening. He's played 40 games this year, but he's not he's not a top defenseman anymore. He's not a top 4 defenseman. He's a depth guy. Toronto would be getting him for depth. And because of that, I think it would take a pick. And I put 5th, conditional 6th or whatever, and I made the condition 50% playoff games. It'll be a mid-round pick. I would think for a guy like Luke Schenn, because he's not a top guy like Ben Chiarot. And it could be potentially, if he goes early in the trade deadline, you could see, all of a sudden people scrambling and the price goes up a little bit. But I don't think it goes up so far that it's a first and a third. I don't think it's anything like that. I don't know if you agree, disagree, Alex.
I completely agree. I don't think Schenn's worth that much.
Yeah. And again, he'll just be depth. I'm not, another right side D, more right, kind of toughness for the playoffs. My next trade is the big one that I want to talk about, because I like this trade for Toronto. I have the Leafs making a trade with the San Jose Sharks, primarily for Tomas Hertl. Now, I know the Dubas said his number one priority is not a forward. But I think you have to still consider it. I think the Leafs make more than one trade if Muzzin is out on LTIR. They have the room, so why not? Tomas Hertl is a UFA. He's got a $5.6 million cap hit, which is roughly what Muzzin is making. But if you retain or whatever on that, obviously it makes it a little bit easier. And it's Hertl and James Reimer. James Reimer. Return to Toronto, please. Again, this is just my inner Leafs fan. Give me Luke Schenn. Give me Connor Brown. Give me James Reimer. Give me all the players that I like that I miss. James Reimer gets kind of shit on in Leaf Nation, but he's had a very good career. He's 188 wins in the NHL is nothing to be ashamed of. 913 save percentage in his career. He's been good. And he's been good this year for San Jose on a bad San Jose team. And we know he can play in Toronto. So my trade suggesting here will be something like this. It'll be Peter Mrazek, Nick Robertson, or top prospect, and a first for James Reimer and Tomas Hertl at half retained. I think this trade works on a lot of levels. I think Mrazek is still a very good goalie. He just hasn't worked in Toronto. Make that switch. Bring in a guy that has worked here in the past, just to give Campbell another guy to bounce off of. Nick Robertson for a prospect and a first for a guy like Tomas Hertl. If San Jose Shark fans want to argue me that Hertl is worth a little more, like whatever, I'll give you another prospect and a pick. I don't care. Another mid pick is not gonna, I don't think, sink this trade. Mm-hmm. I think this is solid for both sides. I don't know if Hertl is gonna re-sign in San Jose. I think San Jose would want to. But where San Jose, where that team is going, I don't know if Hertl wants to attach himself to a team that's obviously heading deeply toward a rebuild. And
yeah, with the cap troubles that San Jose has, too many expensive contracts. A Hertl playing there, making a long-term deal, that's not conducive to having a successful career, winning a Stanley Cup. With Toronto, that's something that he could look forward to, and I think that he'd be excited to play in Toronto, if anything.
Yeah, and it is just a rental, and I'm curious what you think about rental guys at the trade deadline, because some people hate them. Mm-hmm. I think it's something the NHL, it's just part of the business in the NHL, especially for contenders. What do you think about a guy like Tomas Hertl or a guy like Ben Chiarot on a expiring deal, and they're probably going to leave, and you're giving up a first, and why? Why are you doing that?
I know usually when you're trading for a rental and not like a sign-in trade, you trade the value's a little bit lower. I've noticed if you're going to sign and trade, you add, an extra piece into there or something. But when you're talking about high caliber players like Tomas Hertl, you just have to pay fairly, regardless of, you don't have to, you're not paying rental prices, you're paying Hertl prices regardless of if he's a rental or if you're going to sign him or not. So, in some cases, yes, but I think in this case, whether you're going to sign him or rent out Hertl, he's going to cost a lot.
Yeah. And he's a 25, 30 goal scorer almost every year. He plays center, but I would put him on that left side that we've been trying to fill for with JT and Willie for the longest time. I think he'd work there. Even if you want to break up the top line, shift Bunting down to that line and put Hertl on the first line with Matthews and Marner. I wouldn't do that personally. I'd just put him into the second line to see what happens. That bumps Kerfoot down. That bumps Mikheyev down. And then you still have Engvall and Clifford and whoever else for depth for the playoffs. But I think these three trades fill out the Leafs really well.
Both of our trade plans address that, that left wing there and, the hole on D. Yeah. Of course, you go into the goaltending. I personally think that, faith in Jack Campbell, gets a little bit of shakes, the willies that he has on him right now, and he'll be back to, Vezina contending kind of numbers. So I have faith in him. I don't think they need to make that change. I think it's more of an internal one. You think they should make a train, get Reimer in there as a, 1B in a scenario.
Yep.
Both of us are, we both see the need in the forward, the D, but both of our trade proposals here still puts Toronto over the cap, doesn't it?
For me, I think it's really close. But yeah, they need to shed a little bit. For you, it definitely does.
It puts them by 1.5.
With Chychrun and Paul. But for me, I think getting rid of the Mrazek contract, I think keeps me below the cap. So I don't think in my scenario you need to make any moves. But I still would make this move that we're about to talk about next. And we both agree on it. It's time for this player to go. And you can talk about it because it was your trade initially.
The Justin Hall?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he's worth, how many picks, if he, we have, third and a fifth?
Yeah.
We thought could be conditional, could be fourth and seventh, or third and sixth, or a second, or a late second, high third.
Whatever.
It's just the framework for a trade.
Whatever value that Justin Hall has, because I do think he still has value as a right shot.
Oh, absolutely.
That plays 18 plus minutes a night or whatever. We just said Pittsburgh because they're also loading up for a potential playoff run. They don't want to give up any high picks. Brian Burke has come out and said that we need to stop trading first round picks for players. And I don't know if this is a 2-pick deal. Maybe it's just a third. Maybe it's a fourth. I don't know. You let us know what is a guy like Justin Hall worth in the trade market. I still think he's worth quite a bit. If people are saying Luke Schenn is worth a first or a second as a defensive, what the hell is Justin Hall worth? You can't have both. Mm-hmm. you can't have Luke Schenn is worth a first and Justin Hall is worth nothing. That's not that's not how that works. So we have to. That's what the move will have to make. And for me, in my scenario, I've brought in Ben Chiarot and Luke Schenn. There's just, it almost becomes too many bodies. You need to ship someone out. I thought about also including Travis Dermott potentially in this. Ilya Lyubushkin's already here in Toronto, so defensive depth in the playoffs is huge. And I don't want to trade Justin Hall, but I just think that he needs to move on from Toronto. He hasn't played well all year. He's played well really recently. He's in that 10-7 game, he had 4 points. So, but I don't know if that really, how much of an asterisk that is. Yeah. But yeah, those are our trades for the upcoming trade deadline for the Leafs. Potential stuff going on. Other guys I thought of here for forwards, JT Miller. We maybe talk about him in a separate video. Claude Giroux, Connor Garland, Jared McCann has been linked a little bit back to Toronto. That would be hilarious.
Fun.
Josh Manson, Mark Giordano on defense. Another thing that you mentioned that I kind of liked, and I'll go back to this trade real quick. We'll just hit on it really, really quick. Is instead of, if you want, a step down from maybe Hertl and Reimer, You mentioned that Max Domi was connected to the Leafs, and maybe just say how maybe that would
Yeah,
work as
the
well.
that second line left wing kind of role. He could maybe play center. He fills out the offensive role that that hole. Sorry, that Toronto has, and of course the Domi connection. How cool would that be in Toronto?
Mhm.
Adds grit, energy, and I don't think he would cost as much on the Leafs. Tired of giving up first round picks. Maybe they can make something work where it's just a prospect.
Yeah, where it turns into Mrazek and a pick for
Hmm.
Hertl, or not Hertl, Domi and Corpusalo, who's not having a great year. If they want to just make that trade, I don't know. Could be something interesting too. I think the Leafs have some options, but that is it for this
Yeah,
video.
but yeah, let us know down below what you guys think the Leafs should do instead, and what other teams we should cover.
Yeah. Till next time, leave a like on this video, subscribe if you enjoyed this kind of hockey content. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Thanks so much for watching. Peace.